Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Homer Hegabreger. All the time that I was going around at different places and I was listening to how people talk, they are making fun from our Pennsylvania Dutch way of how we say things. And this is something that sometimes gets under my skin, and I thought that if I would get a chance that I sometime could make a record from this, that I would make a record and make the people straightened out, from how we talk. Now, not everybody, I want you to know, not everybody talks dumb, like, just because they're Dutch now. Everybody that has different ways of saying things, they say it because maybe they are Dutch or they're such Italian people or Irish, this macht niks uit. If you have, whatever you are, that's how you talk some. Now the Dutch people, when they make the words around from Dutch to English, they make the words English, but they make them kind of high and waist in front, That's it's like they make the cart before the horse. In Dutch we say, geht die Treppe nuf. Now, when we change it around in English, then we say, go the steps up, and that's dumb. Say. Well, we don't all talk, some talk worse yet than I. I don't have so much of the accent, but some worse yet than I, they talk. And I was, when they had the big war, that was World War II, I traveled around pretty much in other parts from the country, and I got to know whole lots of people, and how they say things, and they think, now down south, you go down south once, here they talk, we had such a sergeant in the army, and he talked so slow, this guy. We was marching one day on 5 acres, this parade ground, we were on this, it's 5 acres long, and this poor guy, for this one word, they say, halt. He had to say this in the middle of the field so we could stop when we got at the end. That's how slow he talked. But I say something else. I was down south. I won't say what town because that sometimes they don't like when you say that. But I was down south at one town where they had such pretty girls. Oh, these equal or so, they had schöne vibes like that. And I was down there. And all of these girls are the most beautiful ever. And they talk slow too, And here I got to know these gals. And one thing that I appreciate much from them, if you ask them for a kiss, it takes them so long to say, no, it's too late. That's right. Yeah, this is true. Well, anyhow. What? Now, I just wonder, I just would like... For the people that are out there, I just would like to give a little bit of an idea. One day it was here in Emmaus, where Emmaus, Pennsylvania is. They made that Emmaus now, but that's Emmaus for real with the Dutch people. There a man walked down the street and he was all spiffied up. He was dressed up with a new suit and a new hat and all this. And his buddy came down the street and didn't even hardly know him. When he saw him, he said, "Aye, Elmer, good morning." He said, "But you look effervescent." Yeah, like that. And Elmer looked back and he said, "Why?" He said, "Did you ever see me when I ever wasn't?" And I tell you something too about with our Dutch people. When they have something to say, it takes them a long time to start, but when they start, they say it quick, and then that's it. One day, this happened at a store. There was a lady, she was a very, an elderly lady. She walked in the store, and you could tell that, well, she was looking for something she couldn't find. And she walked over at the clerk, and she said, "Where's your wash house?" Now, some even do better than that. There was this other lady. She didn't waste any time. She wasn't embarrassed. She just walked in the store and she said, "I came in to go out. Where is it?" Oh, you see, that's how it works. And wherever you go, the different people. Now, I know, when I was a little boy, we lived over here. This is at Walps, Pennsylvania. We lived there, and not far from our house, there was a fellow who had a farm. Now, he did not have no tractor. He didn't have a machine. Everything he did was with the horses, Then one day his wife said, "Now, look, tomorrow go in town and get a new suit so I can go to church with you once, So he said to the horse, "Okay, Herman," that was the horse's name. He got him in the buggy and he said, get up, Herman, we go in town and we buy a new outfit. So glip, clop, hutz, kamach, duvation, he drove the road down to town. And when he got in town, he bought a new suit and a new hat and he put this all on the buggy seat. Then he drove home, glip, clop, Herman, he said, we go home and surprise Mum. And it was a hot summer day on a warm Ford. He drove the road out, glip, clop, And while the horse was trotting along and the perspiration, from the sun was making him sweating like this here, the dust came up and he had to stop once and he said, whoa, Herman, now wait, before I put on the new suit, I take a bath. So he took all his clothes off, he went in the creek for a bath. He took a bath and when he came from out the water, he went over at the wagon and somebody stole all the clothing. He didn't have no clothing at all. Not even a new suit, he didn't even have a wash lumber, it's nothing. And it didn't bother him, he got up on the buggy seat and he said, get up, Herman, we go home and surprise Mum anyhow. Yeah, well. What I tell you, lots of times, now I'm telling you, and this is a fact. We have these guys that come from the big town. Maybe they come here from Philadelphia or Chicago or someplace and they think that all the Dutch people are dumb. Well, we have a guy what's at our store at home and he was behind the counter and such a couple sharp, as they call him, came in there one day and they walked over and they said, hey, we would like to have change for an $18 bill. And he looked at him, he didn't say nothing. He said, how do you want it, in 2 9s or 3 6s? Well, lots of things happen with our Pennsylvania Dutch people. Now, some people say that we make around here, we don't make this here corn liquor like they make down south in the mountains, but around here, people say we make applejack. Now, applejack is something that a lot of the Pennsylvania Dutch people like, and there was this one fella, he likes applejack pretty much more than the other people like applejack, see you. He is all the time walking down the street, and it shows that he had a little bit too much, and the minister one day stopped him and said, I want to tell you something, you come with me up here on the hill. And it was getting dark already, but they went up on the hill, and he sat down on the bank, and he said, now you look down there along the creek. That's the applejack still. Now just look at all those windows with the lights burning down there. Think how many people are down there making applejack. Do you think you could make all the applejack that they are making? Yeah, well, he said, I don't know if I could drink all the applejack they're making, but I sure got them working nights. And with our Pennsylvania Dutch people around here, we have lots of things we could be proud of. There's like, for instance, the one-room schoolhouses and the little Sunday school. Now, there's a little Sunday school I know where the men got together one time and they didn't have much money in the treasury. They were going to spend money to buy something and they didn't know what they needed most first. And they sat there in the kitchen, they had a meeting, and one time they were arguing, and then the little guy in the back of the room stood up. He said, hey, now hold it once. I want to say something. All night long we were fighting from this business of a chandelier. Now, may I say something once? In our church, we don't even have anybody knows how to say chandelier. And he said, if we get a chandelier, we don't even have anybody to play chandelier. And he said, actually, what we need is a new light. There was the story about the man. Now, these are all things that happen for sure around here. The story about the man who didn't like cats. Oh, he hated cats, something awful. But his wife, she liked cats. And she had such a little calico cat. Oh, that's one shame of it. And one day, this cat wasn't around no more. And she didn't have no rest until he would call up the radio station and that he would get the cat back. She said, now you call up and make them make such a pronouncement on the radio that we get the cat back. And he called up the radio announcer and said, I give $100 reward for this calico cat that we lost out near Chapman's, Pennsylvania. And the pronouncer said, $100 reward? That must be a prize-winning cat. No, he said, it's just an ordinary calico cat. Well, he said, when somebody brings him back, are you sure you give them the $100 reward? He said, they won't bring him back, I drowned them. When we walk down the street in our hometown, there are a whole lot of things we can hear funny just by listening. Now, believe me or not, just by listening, you don't even have to have nobody what they call such choke riders. You don't need them, just listen. One time there was a man at 7th and Hamilton Street. He came from Missouri over here. And he had one of them ways of saying things too. And then he was standing there, and there was the man with the lunch kettle. And he walked over to the man with the lunch kettle and said, "Pardon me," he said, "but I do believe that all of the people in this Lehigh Valley are very church-minded people." And the man with the lunch kettle said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what makes you say that then?" "Well," he said, "now you look over there's a bus, and on the front it says Bethlehem. And he said, over here's another bus, and on there it says Nazareth. And he said, now you look over there's another bus, it says Egypt." And the fellow with the lunch kettle said, "Wait yet just 2 minutes, we have one for Allentown." So, but I think the best one, this was about Christmas time, that the lady walked in the store. She went in the store here in Allentown. She had the little red-headed boy by the hand. She walked over to the clerk and she said, "Pardon me," she said, "but I want such a necktie what has initials on." And the clerk didn't understand. He said, "What did you say?" "Why," she said, "I want such a necktie what has initials on, whatever the ABCs are for the names. They have such a one." "Oh," he said, "you mean a monogram tie." "Well," she said, "whatever that is, that's what I want." He said, "What initial would you like?" "Why," she said, "the letter R." So he went back and looked in the ties and he couldn't find one with the letter R. And he said, "I'm sorry, lady, but we don't have one with the R on it." She looked at the little boy and said, "See, Arthur, that's what I said. Come on." There you go. Well, there was a couple. You talk about how we do things. Now, the Pennsylvania Dutch people, they are real sincere people always. There was this couple that, when they were just little kids, they lived neighbors. They went to school together. Then they got married. They were only married about 4 years, I believe it was, and the fellow was killed in an automobile accident. Well, the wife, she just couldn't stand this no more. She didn't know what to do. She was so lonesome. She built a bungalow next at the cemetery where the man was buried. Every night when she went to bed, she would pull up the window shade, look out the window at the grave where the man was buried, and she said, "Oh, John, since we were kids, we were together. Now I'm so alone. Good night, John." And she pulled the shade down and go to bed. When she got up in the morning, she pulled the shade up and said, "Good morning, John. It's a beautiful day, but it's so lonesome without you," and would go to work. Well, after a while, she didn't have enough money to make the house go and pay the mortgage, and she found another man. Then she got married. And that night was the first night in the bungalow. She stood at the window and she pulled up the shade and looked out at the grave again and said, "John, I don't know if this was right, but I needed the money." And she said, "I got to have some help." And she looked out the window and she said, "John, I miss you so much. Good night now." And she pulled the shade down and went to bed. The next morning when she woke up, she went over to the window at the bungalow, pulled up the shade and looked at the grave, and she said, "John, good morning, John. Oh, by the way." Now, I'll tell you something else. There was one time this man that likes the horses and buggies. Wherever he goes, he would go with a horse and buggy. Well, one day he was driving down the road toward Amos. Clip-clop, clip-clop, he had the pacer in the shaft and he was going along clip-clop, and when he was driving there, he saw on the side of the road such a pretty blonde girl, about 19, 20, you know. And as he drove along, he thought to himself, "Boy, this is our Shay, you know, she's pretty nice, clip-clop." And when he got up next where she was walking, he said, "Whoop, how do you do?" And she looked over and she smiled. She said, "Hello." He said, "Yeah, well," he said, "where are you going?" She said, "I'm walking in at Amos." "Yeah, well," he said, "you don't have to walk. Get in the buggy, I take you along." Well, the buggy's kind of high, you know, and she hot soak along, but she got in. And she sat next at him, and clip-clop, with a fat for her, he drove away, and he's going down the road. And all the time he thought to himself, he thought, "Boy, she's over nice, you know, clip-clop, clip-clop. But I'm so old already, clip-clop, I wish I could get to know her better." He thought all this to himself, you know, clip-clop, clip. Then he thought, well, maybe if we write a couple letters, he and her, you know. He didn't know how to say this right in English, the right word for writing letters. And all of a sudden it came to him, corresponding. And he was just going to say something, and she said, "Oh," she said, "here, I must get off." He said, "Whoop." And as she got off the buggy, he said, He said, I don't know you very good. He said, but I'd like to know you better. Do you think we could do a little corresponding? Yeah, well, she said, I don't know. Do you think the horse stays standing that long? Oh. There you are. Then, I don't know if they'll use that one, but we have it there anyway. But it's funny about the people here in the Lehigh County. No matter where they come from, people come from all over the country and they enjoy the way that we do things. You know, I was working one time, I was an announcer on the stage with the Hillbilly Outfits, what was at the fire company. We were down one time at Lancaster County, we were on the stage and we were playing like crazy and the fire siren went off. And everybody left, even the bingo game broke up, everybody left. They went to fight the fire, you know, so I didn't know what to do, and I said to the boys, well, I said, we are getting paid, let's go fight the fire too. So we locked up the instruments and we went where the fire was. And when we were there, the chief's wife, she was kind of a big lady, you know, and she had her good clothes on, but she helped fight the fire. See, as he and Hawksprung, she ran back and forth in all the mud and the water with her good clothes on, and she was helping with the buckets. And the big house was on fire, and the house in the back was on fire, the barn, but the little house in the middle, that one wasn't burning, you know. And they were running back and forth, and all at once you could see that, well, she just stopped and she ran toward the little house that wasn't burning, and she slipped and she fell. And the chief came over and he said, "Aye, Matilda," he said, "that was your good Sunday dress." He said, "I'm sorry that you got it all dirty in the mud." And she got up and she said, "Yeah, well," she said, "it's all right, I couldn't have made it anyhow." So, well, I don't care. I don't care how you figure it out. You know, wherever we go, the people have different ways of saying different things. Now, I know for myself that there are a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch words that sound just like English words, but in English words they mean something else. Now, like a once, you know what is a once? A once is a bedbug. Well, there was this elderly couple one time, they went driving on like a second honeymoon. This was such an anniversary what they had, and they were driving with the machine and they stopped at a motel. Well, they went in the motel and Pop was paying the bill, and all of a sudden Mom came running in the office and she said, "Pop, we ain't staying here." She said, "We're getting out of here." Twice I saw a once go up the wall. Oh, you see it. But this is regular. You know, when I was a little boy, we moved in a new house, and I was with my mammy and my pappy. And that's my grandpap and my grandmam. And we was at this house, and they were arguing about how they were going to paint the kitchen. Well, this is one word in Dutch that's different than it is in English, even though it sounds like it ain't. Does that get you mixed up? Well, anyway, they were there, and Pop came running down. He said, "Oh, Mom," he said, "what are you going to paint the kitchen?" "Was van vader." "What color?" "Why?" She said, "We're going to make it white." "No," he said, "we ain't going to make it white." He said, that's too light. And he said, "that shines in my eyes when I lay down to rest for a nap. We should paint it a little bit dunkel." "Nee, hat sie gesagt." She said, "No, we're going to paint it on the light color. Das muss bissel hell sein werden." And they were talking back and forth and arguing about what color they were going to paint the kitchen. And finally, my pappy, he had a temper too, and he got mad. And he said, "Now hold it. Now wait, just a minute, I want to say something. We're going to paint one stub dunkel, and we're going to paint one stub hell, and if you don't like it in the dunkel, punch it in the hell gate." But anyway, and you... As I said, he clicked me for hunts for sure. There are these different ways that people will say different words. I don't care what it is, and there are so many of the same kind, like in the Pennsylvania Dutch words, where we put the cart before the horse, talking about this cart before the horse business. We had a fella that drank pretty often. He would stop at the different beer joints and one thing or another. He drank pretty much. And this was with the horse and buggy. Then one time he came out with the horse and clip, clop, a spot quarter with the buggy, and he got so about halfway home, and he was pretty drunk, and the horse laid down right in front of the wagon. He sat there for a minute, and he said to the horse, he said, "Now, by golly, get up or I drive over you." But this is right. These guys have all... I must tell you this one, too. You know, we worked these different shows, We was down one time in a place called Stevens, Pennsylvania. It was cold. This was Shunsport. We were down there, and we was on the stage playing the instruments, and the people said, "No, it's so cold you can't play, right? Why don't you sit down at the intermission?" That's in between when we're off, you know. "We should sit down and have some coffee and some hot soup." So we sat down, and they brought out some soup, this corn soup and hot coffee. And the fellow with the guitar, what was at my side, he said he couldn't drink the coffee. And I said, "How come you can't drink the coffee?" And he said, "Well, this happens even in the best houses, at my house too. But by accident, there's a hair in the coffee." He said, "I can't drink it." And the other guy said from the soup, he said the same thing, was a hair in the soup. But then that bothered me, and I had such a piece of apple pie. I got the fork and I went around in the apple pie, took a lot of crust, but I went around in the pie, and I couldn't find a hair in the pie. When the young lady came out, I said, "Honey, how come I got chipped?" She said, "Why, what do you mean you got chipped?" I said, "How come he got a hair in the coffee, the other guy got a hair in the soup, and I didn't get any hair in the apple pie?" "Well," she said, "you're such a smart guy from the big town, but you did not get no hair in your apple pie because your apple pie is made from Baldwin's." I tell you, about 1946, there was a song that a fella put on a record called Mule Train. Now, people, when they heard this song about Mule Train, they thought of the salt flats of Utah, they thought of the West Coast, but they didn't think about our part of Pennsylvania. Well, we had good mule skinners, too. One of these names was Cheeky Knupcup, who lived up in Kungletown, Pennsylvania. And Cheeky Knupcup drove what was known as a Lecho Dal Eselfuhr. That's the Lehigh Valley Mule Train. And if you use your imagination, you could ride along with Cheeky Knupcup doing something like this here. WAWA! Clippity-clopping through the wind and rain. I don't believe by Chingo it will stop. Clippity-clop, clippity-clop, clippity-clippity, clippity-clippity, clippity-clopping along. I have a saddle for a pony what lives out in Maxitone. Such a buggy fully equipped for a doctor up in Egypt. The boss said he won't pay us when I don't mention he may us get along. Hazel 4. Get along. Now, as he drove along, he talked to the mules just like a father. And as he drove along, it went something like this here. It said, "Ha! Come on, Chenny, come on, Shake, hurry up, pull together now, let's go." "Hey-ya, pull, Chenny," I said, "come on." "Yeah, you too, Shake, come on, pull together now." "Ha! Pull, Chenny," I said, "come on." "Hurry up, Shake, don't make Mum do all the work, let's go." "Come on, pull together now." "I do langordig har stack big up let's cup do. Come on, Shake, come on." "Ha! Clippity-clopping through the wind and rain. I don't believe by Chingo it will stop. Clippity-clop, clippity-clop, clippity-clippity, clippity-clippity, clippity-clopping along. Then when he was almost home, he had this long hill to go up. The only way he could get those mules up the hill was keep the light burning up in the barn. That's in the Shire. Because that's where the WAWA was, and they were hungry. You know what the WAWA is, that's the oats. Then he would do like this here. "Ha! Come on, Chenny, come on, Shake, just once the hill up, then we are home, come on." "Hip-ha! Pull together!" "Oi, what's laying out there in the road? A head? I mean a head, here, come on." "Ha! Pull, I said, come on." "I see the light burning up there in the Shire. If you want your WAWA, you gotta heave a WAWA hole it, come on." "Ha! We are pretty soon there now, let's go." They couldn't be piping. "Come on, we are soon home." "Ha! Now we're home." Whoa. Say one thing I must say yet. People wonder where we get the name Lehigh Valley. Lehigh comes from Lecho. That's the German word for Lehigh. And Lecho comes from Lechovecki. Lekhoveki, that was the Indians what used to live here. And I want to tell you a little story from them Indians, and this is something you ought to know about. Years ago, there was this Indian tribe was right down here on the Lehigh River. And they wanted to give the chief's daughter for a bride. And there were 3 braves that wanted to have the chief's daughter. And they said, well, the one that does the greatest feat of bravery will get the chief's daughter. So the one went out and he shot a great big 400-pound grizzly bear. And he brought him back and the tribe thought, oh, this is wunderbar good. This guy ought to have the daughter. Then the other one went out and he came back with about 600 pounds of fish that he caught all by himself. Aye, they said, he's great. He ought to have the chief's daughter. Then the other one, this one's name was Falling Rock. Falling Rock went out and he started to look for something that he could do too. He went hunting and he got lost in the woods. And Falling Rock stumbled around in the woods. He was looking for how to get back with the people. He was gone a month, a year, 3 years, 4 years. In fact, they never heard of him again. And that's why when you drive along the road, you see the signs that say, watch for Falling Rock. I just thought I would say that for you people what sometime may come here to the Lehigh Valley for a visit. And to all of you now, like we always say in Pennsylvania Dutch, I want to say, mach's gut. That means make it good. Shop not too hot. Don't work too hard. And if you're listening at our radio station sometime, don't tray the knop. That means don't turn the knob. Thank you very much.